My name is Ava Bennett. I'm 32 years old. And the strange thing about the moment your life quietly begins to fall apart is that it doesn't feel like destruction. There's no explosion, no screaming, no dramatic cinematic collapse where everything shatters at once. Sometimes, it starts with something that sounds almost reasonable. It was a Tuesday night. Nothing special, just dinner at home, grilled chicken, a glass of wine I hadn't really touched. The kind of quiet routine you mistake for stability. Ethan sat across from me, rolling his glass slowly between his fingers. That should have been my first clue. He only did that when he was rehearsing something in his head. "I've been thinking," he said. I smiled. Soft. Automatic. That's usually dangerous. He didn't smile back. And just like that, something small and sharp twisted in my chest. "About us," he added. "About the future." I set my fork down. Because suddenly, this didn't feel like a normal conversation anymore. We had been together for almost 4 years. Living together for 2. Engaged for 6 months. A wedding planned for next spring. We had a venue, deposits paid, seating chart arguments already starting. From the outside, we looked solid. And maybe that's why I didn't recognize the cracks when they first appeared. They weren't loud. They were subtle. 3 weeks ago, Ethan started a new project at work. Big client, high stakes, late nights. His ex-girlfriend Lily was leading it. That part hadn't bothered me at first. People have histories. That's normal. And Ethan had always been open about Lily. They'd dated years ago. It ended. Life moved on. At least, that's what I believed. The late night started gradually. At first, it made sense. Big presentation coming up. Client keeps changing direction. Team's under pressure. Normal things. Reasonable things. But then, the messages started changing. Not what he said, but how he said it. Still at work, running late. Don't wait up. Grabbing dinner here.
Shorter. Vague. Detached.
And when he came home, he didn't feel tired. He felt charged. Like something inside him was alive in a way I wasn't part of. I told myself it was just the excitement of the project. That's what trust looks like, right? Giving someone the benefit of the doubt, even when something feels off. 2 Tuesdays ago, everything shifted. At 6:32 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Ethan." "Still at work. Meeting ran late again. Don't wait up for dinner." I stared at the message. Something about it felt rehearsed. Too clean. Too easy. I don't know why I opened the app. Honestly, I had forgotten it was even there. About a year ago, before a road trip, we'd shared locations. Safety thing. Convenience. I never checked it. Never needed to. Until that night. His location wasn't at the office downtown. It was somewhere else.
An apartment complex.
20 minutes away. In the opposite direction. I stared at the screen for a full minute, watching that small blue dot like it might move if I just gave it time. My brain scrambling for explanations. Maybe a client lived there. Maybe the team relocated for some reason. Maybe. But no matter how many maybes I stacked on top of each other, one thing didn't change. He said he was at work. He wasn't. I took a screenshot. My hands didn't shake, which, in hindsight, might have been the scariest part. I was calm. Too calm. I opened our group chat. 8 people. Me, Ethan, his sister, my brother, and the friends who had toasted us, celebrated us, believed in us. People who thought they knew our story. I typed, "Can someone pick him up from work?" and attached the screenshot. The location clearly visible. Riverside Apartments. I hit send. Then I placed my phone face down on the table and went to make dinner, because some part of me already knew. Once that message landed, there was no going back. The silence lasted 4 minutes. Exactly 4. Then my phone exploded. Messages, notifications, calls.
Confusion. Shock. Immediate chaos.
I didn't read any of them. I just sat there, eating dinner that suddenly tasted like nothing, watching a show I couldn't follow, waiting. At 8:47 p.m., the front door slammed open. Ethan. His face flushed, his phone clenched tightly in his hand. "What the hell was that?" he snapped. I looked up slowly, kept my voice even. "What was what?" "You posted my location, in the group chat." His voice rose. "Are you serious right now?" "You said you were at work." I held his gaze. "You weren't at work." The room shifted. Not loudly, but enough. Because now, we were no longer pretending. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "So your solution is to humiliate me? In front of everyone?" "I asked if someone could pick you up," I said calmly. That seemed helpful. His eyes snapped to mine. "You know exactly what you did." "Do I?" "You made me look like I was lying." The words hung there, heavy.
Unavoidable.
I tilted my head slightly. "Were you?" For a second. Just a second. I saw it.
Panic.
Raw. Unfiltered. Then it disappeared. Replaced by anger.
Defense. Control.
"I can explain," he said. "Good," I replied. "Explain." He hesitated. Just long enough to tell me everything I needed to know. "Lily's apartment," he said finally. "We were working there. The office was too loud." I blinked once. Slowly. "And that required telling me you were at the office?" "It's the same thing," he snapped. "We were working." "No," I said quietly. "It's not." The silence between us stretched. Thin.
Sharp. Fragile.
Because this wasn't about location anymore. It was about truth. And somewhere along the way, he had decided I didn't deserve it. He exhaled hard, shaking his head. "You violated my privacy." I almost laughed. "You're on my location sharing. For emergencies." This felt like one. His jaw tightened. "Oh, really? So you broadcast it to everyone we know?" I shrugged slightly. "If you were really working..." I let the sentence hang, because we both knew how it ended. For the first time, he had no response. And in that silence, something inside me settled. Not broke, not shattered. Just shifted. Like a final piece falling into place. He turned away, grabbing his keys. "This isn't over," he muttered. "No," I said softly. "It isn't." But deep down, I think we both knew. Something had already ended. We just hadn't said it out loud yet. For the next 2 days, the group chat became a battlefield. His sister Claire came in first. "Ethan would never cheat. Ava, this is such an invasion of privacy." My brother Miles didn't say much at first. Just one message. "Ava, call me." Then our friend Cole wrote, "That's sketchy." Ethan's college friend Madison tried to soften it. "There has to be an explanation." I stared at those words longer than I should have. There has to be an explanation. That was the sentence people used when the truth was already standing in the room, but no one wanted to look directly at it. Ethan didn't come home that night. He texted me once. "I need space after what you did." What I did. Not what he lied about. Not where he'd been. Not why he had been alone at his ex-girlfriend's apartment after telling me he was still downtown at the office. Just what I did. I read the message 3 times, then put my phone away. I didn't answer. Because I was beginning to understand something painful. Some people don't apologize when they're caught. They search for a way to become the victim. Friday morning, he came home. He looked like he hadn't slept, but he had dressed carefully. That bothered me more than I expected. The pressed shirt, the clean hair, the rehearsed face. He stood in the kitchen while I made coffee. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't turn around. "Then talk." He inhaled slowly. "What you did was toxic." There it was. The speech. "I've been thinking about this," he continued. And I think we have a serious problem with trust. I finally turned. We do. He looked relieved for half a second. Until I added, because you lied. His jaw tightened. I didn't lie. I was working. At Lily's apartment. Yes. Alone? His expression flickered. We were preparing for a client presentation. Then why not say that? Because I knew you'd react like this. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it was so perfectly backwards. You lied because you knew I'd be upset that you were doing something worth lying about? He stared at me. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. His anger cracked then. Softened. He stepped closer. Ava, baby, I'm sorry I didn't explain it better. Not sorry I lied. Not sorry I hurt you. Sorry I didn't explain it better. I should have told you I was there, he said. But nothing happened, I swear. I watched him carefully. The man I had loved for 4 years. The man whose name was printed beside mine on wedding invitations, sitting unopened in a box near the hallway closet. The man I had imagined gray-haired and laughing beside me someday. And all I could think was, why does he sound like a stranger? Show me your phone, I said. He froze. Just slightly. But I saw it. Ava, show me. That's not healthy. Neither is lying to your fiancé about being at your ex's apartment. His face hardened again. You're not going to control me. I'm not trying to control you. Then stop acting like a detective. I set my coffee mug down. I didn't need to be a detective, Ethan. You sent me the lie. The app showed me the truth. That hit him. I could see it. For 1 second, he looked almost ashamed. Then he reached for his keys. I'm going to Claire's. Of course you are. He paused by the door. You're really willing to throw away 4 years over a misunderstanding? No, I said. I'm trying to figure out whether you already did. He left without another word. And somehow, the silence after he walked out was louder than all the shouting. That weekend, everyone had an opinion. Claire sent me paragraphs. About forgiveness. About privacy. About how men and women could be friends after dating. About how I had humiliated her brother. I didn't answer. Ethan's mother, Helen, called Sunday afternoon. Helen had always been kind to me. Warm, careful, the kind of woman who remembered how I took my tea and sent me birthday cards with handwritten notes. So when her name appeared on my phone, I almost didn't answer, but I did. Sweetheart, she said gently, Ethan told me you two are having trouble.
Trouble.
Such a soft word for betrayal. He lied about where he was, I said. There was a pause. He says he was working. He was at Lily's apartment. Another pause. Longer this time. I see. I could hear something shift in her voice. Not agreement. Not exactly. But discomfort. Helen, I said quietly, if it was innocent, why lie? She sighed. Sometimes people make foolish choices because they're afraid of being misunderstood. Or because they understand exactly what they're doing. She didn't respond right away. Then she said, he loves you. I closed my eyes. Maybe he did. That was the worst part. Love didn't always stop people from being selfish. Sometimes love was just the thing they expected you to forgive them with. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, I told her. Please don't make any rash decisions. I'm not. And I meant it. Because what was happening inside me didn't feel rash. It felt slow.
Clear. Terrible.
Like watching fog lift from a road and realizing the bridge ahead had been out for miles. On Monday morning, Ethan texted, I think you owe me an apology. I laughed once. Out loud. Not because anything was funny. Because my body didn't know what else to do. Then another message came. Publicly embarrassing me was cruel. I typed back, you were at your ex-girlfriend's apartment at night while telling me you were at work. He replied almost immediately. We were working. I stared at the capital letters. As if volume could turn a lie into truth. Then I wrote, then why did you lie? No reply. That silence told me more than anything he had said. Later that afternoon, Madison messaged me privately. Madison wasn't my closest friend, but she had been around since the beginning. She knew Ethan from college. She had been there the night he proposed. She had cried when I said yes. Her message was short. "Ava, can we talk?" I felt my stomach drop before I even answered. "About what?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Something you need to know." I sat at my desk for a long time after that. The office around me kept moving. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking, someone laughing near the break room. Life continuing in that cruel, ordinary way it does when yours is quietly coming apart. Finally, I typed, "When?" She replied, "Tomorrow. Coffee. In person." That night, Ethan came by again. He looked softer this time. Tired. Almost convincing. He stood in the living room, looking at the wedding binder on the coffee table. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "I miss us. And God help me. That hurt. Because I missed us too. Or at least, I missed who I thought we were." He stepped closer. "Ava, I made a mistake. I should have told you where I was, but you have to believe me. Nothing happened." I looked at him. Really looked. The nervous mouth, the careful eyes, the way he avoided saying Lily's name unless he had to. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I want us to fix this." "Then tell me the whole truth." He swallowed. "I have." And there it was. The door closing. Not because I knew everything, but because I knew he was still choosing the lie. I nodded slowly. "Then I guess there's nothing left to say tonight." His face fell. "Ava." "Go home, Ethan. This is my home too." I looked around the apartment. At the couch we picked together, the framed photo from our engagement dinner, the 2 mugs in the sink. Then I looked back at him. "Then maybe you should have treated it like something worth protecting." He left quietly that time. No slam, no shouting, just the soft click of the door. And somehow, that was worse. Because anger leaves heat behind. Quiet leaves ghosts. The next morning, I woke before my alarm. I hadn't slept much. I showered, got dressed, put on mascara even though my hands felt unsteady. I don't know why. Maybe because some part of me understood that whatever Madison was about to tell me would divide my life into before and after. Before the truth. After the truth. At 12:15, I walked into the coffee shop near my office. Madison was already there. She had a latte in front of her, untouched. Her fingers kept turning the cup sleeve around and around. When she saw me, her face changed.
Guilt. Pity.
Fear. And I knew. Before she opened her mouth, I already knew. She stood halfway, awkwardly. "Ava." "Just say it," I whispered. Her eyes filled. "I'm so sorry." And with those 3 words, the last fragile part of me that still wanted to believe him went completely still. Madison didn't start talking right away. She just sat there, staring into her coffee like the answer might be written in the foam. I took the seat across from her. My hands were steady, strangely steady. Like my body had already accepted something my mind was still catching up to. "Say it," I repeated quietly. She nodded once, like she was bracing herself. "Ethan and Lily," she began, then stopped, swallowed, tried again. "They're not just working together." Silence settled between us. Heavy.
Predictable.
"And how long have you known?" I asked. Her eyes flicked up to mine, then away again. "Since February." February. 4 months. 4 months of dinners, laughter, wedding planning, while something else had been growing in the background. "What exactly is not just working together?" I asked. Madison exhaled shakily. "They've been talking. A lot. Late nights, messages, flirting." She hesitated. "Ethan told me it was just emotional, that nothing physical had happened." I let out a small breath. Not relief. Just air leaving my lungs. Do you believe that? Madison looked miserable. I wanted to. He's my friend. But after seeing the screenshot, after how he reacted, she shook her head. No, I don't know what to believe anymore. I nodded slowly, because that made two of us. Why tell me now? I asked. Her voice dropped. Because when you posted that screenshot, I didn't see embarrassment on his face when I called him. She looked at me, eyes glassy. I saw panic. The word landed exactly where it needed to.
Panic.
Not anger, not hurt, not confusion.
Panic.
Like someone who had just been caught. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have said something sooner. I shook my head faintly. No, this wasn't your responsibility. And I meant that. Because the truth had a way of surfacing, eventually. Sometimes all it needed was a little light. We sat there for a few more minutes. Madison filled in details I hadn't even asked for. Late-night conversations that weren't about work. Ethan mentioning Lily in ways that sounded different, softer. The way he once said, "She just gets me," and laughed like it was harmless. It never is. When we finally stood to leave, Madison touched my arm gently. What are you going to do? I thought about that for a moment. Really thought about it. And realized something unexpected. I already knew. I'm going to stop pretending I don't see what's in front of me. I didn't cry. Not in the cafe, not in my car afterward, not even when I got home and stood in the middle of the apartment that suddenly felt like a stage set for a life that no longer existed. Instead, I started packing. It was almost methodical. His clothes first, folded neatly, stacked into boxes. Then his shoes, his books, his watch collection lined up carefully like artifacts from someone else's life. I found his spare phone charger tangled behind the nightstand. A hoodie I used to steal from him on cold nights. A receipt from a restaurant we had gone to 2 months ago, one I remembered because he'd seemed distracted the entire evening. Now I knew why. 3 hours passed like that. No music. No TV. Just the quiet rhythm of closing chapters. By the time I finished, the living room was filled with boxes.
Labeled.
Organized.
Final.
I stood there, looking at them. At the physical evidence of a relationship reduced to cardboard and tape. And I felt not broken. Not even angry. Just clear. At 6:40 p.m., I called a locksmith. Hi, I said calmly. I need to change my locks. By 8:55 p.m., it was done. New keys. New deadbolt. A small, satisfying click every time I tested it.
Security. Finality. Choice.
At 9:02 p.m., I sent Ethan a message. Your things are packed. Let me know when you want to pick them up. He called within seconds. What do you mean my things are packed? His voice was sharp, disbelieving. Exactly what it sounded like. You can coordinate a time to collect them, I said evenly. You can't just kick me out. I'm not kicking you out. I leaned against the counter, watching the reflection of myself in the dark window. You left, I said. I'm just making it official. There was a beat of silence. Then, we're engaged. I closed my eyes briefly. Were. You're ending this over a misunderstanding? He snapped. Madison told me everything. Silence. Not the confused kind. Not the offended kind. The kind that says you've just hit the truth directly. She doesn't know what she's talking about, he said finally. Yes, I replied softly. She does. His tone shifted then.
Defensive became desperate.
Ava, listen to me. Nothing happened. We just connected? I cut in gently. He stopped. Because now we were using the real words. It wasn't like that, he insisted. You were at her apartment, I said. At night. Alone. While telling me you were somewhere else. That doesn't mean... It means enough. His voice cracked. You're overreacting. No, I said quietly. I'm reacting exactly once. Another silence. Longer this time. Then, "You can't do this." I looked around the apartment. At the boxes. At the empty spaces where his things used to be. At the life I had already started dismantling hours before this conversation even began. I already did. "You're going to regret this," he said, his voice tightening. "Maybe," I admitted, "but I would regret staying more." I hung up. 10 minutes later, his sister Claire called. She didn't bother with greetings. "What is wrong with you?" she demanded. I leaned back against the couch. "Good evening to you too. You packed his things? Changed the locks? Are you serious right now?" "Yes." "You're throwing away 4 years over this?" I smiled faintly. "No," I said. "I'm refusing to build a lifetime on top of it." "You're being dramatic," she snapped. "He didn't cheat." I tilted my head. "He emotionally invested in another woman for months and lied about it. That's not cheating. Call it whatever makes you feel better." "He loves you," she insisted. "Then he should have acted like it." She exhaled sharply. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe," I said again. "But at least this one is mine." She hung up on me. The next morning, Ethan showed up. Of course he did. With Claire. And his mother, Helen.
A full audience.
I opened the door, but kept the chain on. The boundary felt important. "Your things are ready," I said. "Ava, please," Ethan said, stepping forward. "Just let me in so we can talk." "No." His face tightened. "You're really doing this?" "I am." It took 3 trips to bring everything out. Box by box. Piece by piece. Ethan tried talking during each one. I didn't answer. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I had already said it. On the last trip, as I set the final box down, his voice broke. "What about the ring?" I reached into my pocket. Pulled it out. The engagement ring. 8 months of saving. A future I had once believed in. I held it out. "You can have it back," I said. "Or keep it. I don't care." He took it slowly, like it weighed more than it should. His eyes filled. "You really don't care anymore?" I met his gaze. "I cared when I thought you were honest." I paused. "That version of you doesn't exist anymore." Helen stepped forward then, her voice softer. "Is there really no way to fix this?" I looked at her gently. "What exactly would we be fixing?" She didn't answer. Because we both knew. You can't repair something that was quietly replaced long before it broke. They left shortly after, Ethan lingering for a moment longer than the others. Like he was waiting for me to stop him. To change my mind. To give him one more chance to tell a better version of the same story. I didn't. The door closed. The lock clicked. And just like that, the life I thought I had was officially over. But the strange thing was, I didn't feel empty. I felt free. The group chat stayed silent for 3 days. 8 people. No messages. No jokes, no updates, no attempts to smooth things over. Just absence. Like everyone was waiting for someone else to decide what version of the truth they were allowed to believe. Monday afternoon, at exactly 2:16 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Ethan." Not a text to me. A message in the group chat. "Since my private life has apparently become public," he wrote, "I think it's only fair I clarify a few things." I stared at the screen. Something in my chest went still. Because I already knew. This wasn't going to be an apology. "Yes, I was at Lily's apartment," he continued. "We were working. And yes, we had been developing feelings for each other. There it was.
Plain. Unavoidable. Public.
It wasn't planned," he added. "It just happened. I'm sorry for how things came out, but I'm not sorry for finding someone who makes me feel understood and valued." My lips parted slightly. Not in shock. Not even in anger. Just disbelief at the audacity. Some of you will understand, some won't. Either way, I'm moving forward. The chat exploded. He's being honest now. That's what matters. Did he seriously just admit to cheating and make it sound like growth? Cole. Yeah, that's exactly what that was. Ethan, you're rewriting the story to make yourself feel better. He didn't cheat. Feelings aren't illegal. He was engaged. Cole. And lying. And sneaking around. I watched the messages stack on top of each other. Voices colliding. Sides forming. Truth twisting depending on who was holding it. And suddenly, I felt tired. Not hurt. Not furious. Just tired. So I typed one message. Thanks for confirming what I already knew. I hope it was worth it. I stared at it for a second. Then I hit send. And left the chat. Just like that. 4 years reduced to a final sentence and a quiet exit. I made a new group chat later that night. Miles, Cole, Madison, and the friends who hadn't tried to convince me that lying was just a misunderstanding. No drama, I wrote. Cole replied instantly. Finally. Life didn't dramatically fall apart after that. It rearranged itself. The apartment was the first problem. Too expensive for one person. Too many memories for comfort. For a week, I walked through it like a guest, touching things that still felt like ours instead of mine. Then one evening, I opened all the windows, let the air move through, took down the framed photos, changed the sheets,
Rearranged the furniture.
small things, but intentional. A week later, Miles helped me repaint the living room. Soft gray.
Neutral.
Clean. A blank canvas where something new could exist. The lease situation resolved itself faster than I expected. Ethan agreed to let me buy out his half. It cost me $3,200. It stung. But it was a clean break. And I had learned something important. Clean breaks are worth paying for. Work became my anchor. I stayed late. Took on extra projects. Not to distract myself, but because I finally had the emotional space to focus. Within 2 months, I got promoted. The irony didn't escape me. While he had been pretending to work late, I had been building something real. The wedding was canceled, of course. Deposits lost.
Venue. Catering. Flowers.
About $4,000 gone. It hurt. But every time I thought about it, I came back to the same conclusion. It was cheaper than a divorce. Through Madison, I heard updates I never asked for. Lily and Ethan didn't last. Of course they didn't. Apparently, what felt exciting when it was secret felt complicated when it was real. She didn't like the drama. He didn't like the expectations. And somewhere between reality and consequence, whatever they thought they had, collapsed. Helen called me once more. Her voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. I owe you an apology, she said. For what? For believing him too easily. I sat on the edge of my newly rearranged couch. You're his mother, I said gently. You wanted to believe him. That's not an excuse, she replied. I raised him better than this. I didn't argue, because I could hear it in her voice. She already knew the truth. We said goodbye kindly. Not as family, but not as strangers either. Something in between. Something finished. The apartment started to feel different after that. Not empty. Not haunted. Just mine. Miles' coworker eventually moved in as a roommate. Split the rent. Filled the space with new energy. New routines. New conversations that had nothing to do with the past. We started hosting small game nights. Nothing fancy. Just laughter. Noise. Life returning in quiet, unexpected ways. One night, Cole pulled out his phone and said, "You have to see this." He had turned the screenshot into a meme. The location dot. The caption, "Can someone pick him up from work?" I laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in weeks. Because that was the thing no one tells you about endings. Sometimes, they don't just break you, they free you. I started seeing someone casually a few months later. Nothing serious. No pressure. Just easy. And when I told him the story about the GPS, the group chat, the fallout, he shook his head, smiling. That's the most efficient breakup I've ever heard. Maybe it was. As for Ethan, I haven't spoken to him since the day I handed him those boxes. He tried reaching out once. I didn't answer. Because some doors don't need closure. They just need to stay closed. Looking back now, I don't regret what I did. Was it dramatic? Yes. Was it public? Absolutely. But it was also honest. He had been lying quietly, carefully, maintaining an image. A story where everything was fine, where we were fine. And all I did was turn on the light. No manipulation, no back and forth, no gaslighting. Just one undeniable truth. A message saying he was at work, and a location that proved he wasn't. Simple.
Clear. Final.
If I had handled it privately, maybe it would have dragged on longer. Maybe I would have believed him. Maybe I would have married him. And that thought, that's the only thing that still scares me. Because the truth didn't destroy my life. It saved me from the wrong one. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop protecting someone else's lies. And just let the truth speak for itself.